BF dumped me on Valentine's Day after I spent weeks on his gift, then admitted he's catching feelings for his co-star, and they made out years ago. I spent weeks finding the perfect gift for a man who broke up with me the same night I gave it to him. If that doesn't sound like a punchline to the world's cruelest joke, just wait. So, my boyfriend dumped me on Valentine's Day, literally the same day I gave him this super expensive gift. Turns out, he'd been catching feelings for his co-star in the show they're doing, and they even made out at some point. Something he never bothered to tell me about. I'm in med school, and we've been dating for a little over a year, on and off. We took a break last year for a few months because we realized we weren't on the same page. I wanted something real, and he wasn't sure what he wanted yet, but we reconnected at the end of summer once his life started to settle down. He'd figured out his living situation and got more serious about his career, said he was finally ready to commit. He's in this elite musical theater program, think something like Juilliard, and yeah, both of us have wild schedules. Still, we made it work. We'd see each other about once a week, and we stayed in touch constantly, texting, calling, checking in throughout the day whenever we could. I feel like I need to rewind a bit, though, to explain why this whole thing hit me so hard. We met at a party thrown by a friend of mine. He was playing piano there. My friend knew him through some theater stuff from college. Funny thing is, I wasn't even supposed to be at that party. I had finals coming up and planned to study, but my friend insisted I needed a break and basically dragged me out. I remember seeing him at the piano and thinking he was cute, but I didn't pay much attention until we got to chatting about our favorite composers. I used to play violin, so we kind of clicked over music. One thing led to another, and we exchanged numbers. Our first date was actually great. He took me to this tiny jazz club I'd never even heard of, Real Hidden Gem. We ended up talking for hours. I remember thinking how refreshing it was to be with someone who was passionate about something completely outside the world of medicine. Most guys I dated were in med school like me, or at least in healthcare, and honestly, it got kind of dull. The same conversations over and over. We kept it casual for about 2 months before it started getting serious. Things were a bit rocky at first. We just weren't looking for the same thing. I was ready for something solid, and he was still trying to sort himself out. We had a long talk and decided to take a break. During that time, I focused on school and tried dating other people, but nothing compared to what I had with him. Meanwhile, I'd still catch a few of his performances here and there. Our mutual friends would invite me. We were polite, kept our distance. I could tell he was still figuring stuff out, auditioning for programs, trying to figure out where his career was heading. I respected that he needed space to do that, even if it stung that he couldn't figure things out while still being with me. Then out of the blue, he reached out and asked to grab coffee. Told me he missed me. Said his plans were finally coming together. He'd been accepted into this top-tier performance program, found a solid place to live near campus, and felt like he was finally in the right headspace to be a good partner. I was cautious, didn't want to get burned again, but we started seeing each other casually. Those first few weeks after we got back together, I was really careful. I didn't let myself get too excited, because I knew how badly it had hurt the last time things fell apart. We'd meet up for quick lunches or coffee whenever we could squeeze it in between my med school classes and his rehearsals. But even in those short moments, I could tell he wasn't the same guy he used to be. He seemed more settled, more confident, like he finally knew what he wanted. About a month into this new phase, he totally caught me off guard in the best way. One evening, he showed up at my apartment with takeout from my favorite restaurant. I found out later he'd coordinated with my roommate to make sure I'd be home. That small gesture meant a lot. It was thoughtful, and it felt like he really cared. We ate dinner, watched a movie, and for the first time in a long while, I felt this quiet hope that maybe we could actually make it work this time. And for a while, it really felt like we were on the right track. We slowly started spending more time together. Then, about 3 months ago, he asked if we could make things official again. I was thrilled. I honestly believed he'd grown, that he was finally serious about having a real relationship. Things felt strong between us. The intimacy was great. I got along with his friends, he got along with mine. It all just worked. Sure, we had a few small disagreements here and there, like any couple, but nothing major. There was one time we had a little argument about how much time we were spending together. I was neck-deep in prep for a big exam and needed more time to study, while he felt like I was pulling away. But instead of blowing up or turning it into a bigger issue, we sat down and talked it through. We made a schedule that worked for both of us. I actually took that as a really good sign. Like, we could handle conflict and still treat each other with respect. That kind of communication? I thought it meant we had something real. I even introduced him to my parents when they were visiting the city a while back. My dad's usually got his guard up when it comes to guys I date, especially after what happened with my last ex, who totally deceived me. But surprisingly, he liked this one. They actually bonded a bit, and my dad invited him to visit us over the holidays. My mom texted me later saying she thought he was a great guy and that I seemed the happiest I'd been in a long time. So with today being Valentine's Day, I was bummed we didn't have any plans. He told me he was slammed, classes during the day and rehearsals at night, but said we could do dinner that weekend instead. I was cool with that, tried to be understanding. Still, I wanted to make the day feel special, so I put together a gift and dropped it off with a handwritten card. I went all out. I found these rare sheet music scores by his favorite composer, this super obscure German guy he's obsessed with. Took me weeks of emailing shops across Europe, and I even paid extra to rush ship them in time. I added his favorite snacks and a bottle of really good bourbon. He's a huge bourbon guy. And the card? I poured my heart into that thing. In the card, I wrote about how much I admired his dedication to his craft, how proud I was of everything he'd accomplished so far. I really meant it. I even took the time to drive across town during my lunch break, right in between classes, just to drop the gift off with the concierge at his apartment building, hoping he'd come home to a surprise that made him smile. And to think, this was the gift I mentioned at the very start. The one I poured my time, energy, and heart into. The one I dropped off right before he decided to throw away everything we had. That afternoon, I was overwhelmed. I'm doing my PEDS rotation right now, and it was one of those exhausting days. One of the kids I was working with had this incredibly complicated case, and my attending wouldn't stop grilling me with questions. I was trying to think fast, remember every detail from the chart, and at the same time, be gentle and present for the kid's anxious parents. By the time I finally got out of the hospital, my brain felt like it had been through a blender. When I got home, I was completely wiped out. My roommate was out with her boyfriend, so it was just me, eating leftover pasta and zoning out to some dumb show. Then my phone rang. It was him. I actually felt a little jolt of excitement, thinking maybe he was calling to say thanks for the gift. He was on his way home and opened everything while we were on the phone. He thanked me, said the bourbon was a really thoughtful touch and that the sheet music was super cool. We talked casually for a bit, like normal, and then I asked if we were still on for our date this weekend. That's when things shifted. He said he wanted to come over to my place this weekend to chat, which immediately raised a red flag in my head. See, he lives downtown, close to where we were planning to go out, and I'm in the suburbs. Him wanting to make that trip just to talk? Yeah, that didn't sit right with me. I'd already had a rough day, and I didn't want to spend the rest of the week spinning in anxiety, wondering what that chat was going to be about. From experience, when someone wants to talk, it's almost never good. So I asked him straight up, if something was on his mind, could we just talk about it now and not drag it out? There was this long pause. I could hear him sighing on the other end. That's when I knew something was really wrong. Then he hit me with it. He told me that recently, he'd started developing feelings for a close friend of his, a woman he's known for 6 years who's also in his program. Apparently, now that they've been cast as romantic leads in the show they're rehearsing, those feelings have started to shift into something deeper. He apologized and said he didn't feel right staying in a relationship with me while feeling that way. He said he just wanted to be honest. I was stunned. Like, everything inside me went quiet. Then I started seeing red. He went on to say he hadn't physically done anything with her, but during rehearsals, especially in some of the more intimate scenes, he started to feel like those emotions might be mutual. He claimed they hadn't talked about it, and that he hadn't changed how he felt about me. But seriously, what does that even mean? I'd actually met this girl once. It was at a social get-together a couple of months ago. It was at a cast party after their winter showcase where I first met her. She came off polite enough, but there was this weird coldness toward me I couldn't quite put my finger on. At the time, I brushed it off, figured maybe she was just shy or having an off night. But now, looking back, I can't help but wonder if she already had feelings for him and maybe didn't like seeing us together. I remember they did a duet that night. Yeah, they had chemistry on stage, sure, but I didn't think much of it. He always talked about her like she was just a good friend and someone he respected professionally. He even mentioned once that she had a boyfriend, though honestly, I have no idea if they're still together. So when we were on the phone and he dropped all this on me, I asked him straight up, what was he hoping to get out of this conversation? He didn't come out and say he wanted to end things. Instead, he kept talking about how it felt wrong to stay in the relationship while having these new feelings. He said he wasn't even sure if he'd ever act on them, or if he'd even bring them up to her, since they've been friends for so long, and he didn't know what it all meant yet. The entire conversation felt like he was stuck in his own head, not sure what he wanted. One second it seemed like he was still figuring things out. The next it felt like he'd already made up his mind. So I asked him directly, "Are you breaking up with me or not?" And he gave me this vague, wishy-washy response about needing space to sort through his emotions and not wanting to hurt me more than he already had. That was the moment I snapped a bit. I told him it's not that complicated. You're either in or you're out. Finally, after dancing around it for a while, he admitted that, yeah, he thought we should break up. But he also added that he still cared about me a lot and hoped we could stay in each other's lives. I didn't respond to that. I just hung up. So yeah, we're done. At least for now. And I'm still reeling. My emotions are all over the place. I don't even know how to process it. Am I wrong for thinking he handled this terribly? Because honestly, I feel completely blindsided. I've been deceived before. My last relationship ended because the guy I was with cheated on me. So this just hit a nerve I didn't even realize was still raw. And okay, sure, he didn't physically cheat on me. He told me before anything actually happened. And yeah, I appreciate that. But still, emotional deception hurts too, doesn't it? And what really stings? The timing. He could have told me this days before Valentine's. Or even waited until after. But no, he waited until after I spent weeks tracking down a meaningful gift, poured my heart into a card, went out of my way to surprise him, and then he drops this on me later that night. Like, what the hell? Right after the call, I messaged my best friend. She came over right away, brought ice cream and wine. I cried for 2 solid hours. She's usually super blunt, tells it like it is. But even she was like, damn, that's some seriously messed up timing. She ended up staying the night because I was such a wreck. And the worst part? I don't even have time to fall apart right now. I'm in the middle of studying for one of the biggest exams of my med school career. Between rotations, classes, and trying to maintain this relationship, commuting all the way downtown to see him because it was always easier for me than for him with his rehearsals. I've been running myself into the ground. And now, I just feel like a total idiot. God, I'm rambling. I'm just tired. Tired, angry, and hurt. I've got rounds at the hospital at 6 a.m., and I can't even focus long enough to study tonight. Valentine's Day. Seriously. And then nothing. For 3 days. It was just me on autopilot. Go to the hospital, come home, try to study, cry, sleep, repeat. He didn't reach out at all, which I guess is probably for the best. My roommate's been amazing, making sure I eat, checking in. My mom called the other day to ask how Valentine's went, and I just broke down crying on the phone. She offered to come visit, but I told her I really need to focus on this exam. Edit. Since a few people have asked, yeah, we're both in our mid-20s. And yeah, someone asked if maybe she has feelings for him too. At this point, I honestly wouldn't be surprised. I honestly don't know what's going on between them. He told me he thinks she might have feelings too, based on the way she acts during their romantic scenes, but they've never actually talked about it. So yeah, it's all just vibes and assumptions at this point. Edit number 2. Just to clear something up, when I said broken up for now, that was just me being unclear because I was upset and trying to write through the mess in my head. We're definitely broken up. No doubt about that. I just don't know if we'll end up having any more conversations about it, or if that phone call was the last time we'll ever speak. Edit number 3. Thanks for all the comments and messages. Seriously, I've been reading through them even if I haven't replied to everyone. Some of you asked for more context about our break last year, so here it is. Back then, he was in this place where he wasn't sure he could handle a serious relationship while chasing his performance career. He was auditioning all over the country and told me he didn't want to commit to anything long distance if he got into a program far away. That made sense, I guess, and I respected that. When we got back together, it was because he'd chosen to stay here in the city. He'd been accepted into this top-tier musical program and said he finally felt grounded. I took that as a sign that he was ready to commit for real this time. Clearly, I read too much into that. And just to clarify, by musical performance, I'm talking about stuff like theater, opera, that whole world. I'm keeping some of the specifics vague for obvious privacy reasons, but basically, he and this friend of his are playing romantic leads in a production. He says the feelings started creeping in during rehearsals and caught him off guard. But now, after everything, I can't help wondering, was something already going on between them before the show even started? Was the whole "it happened during rehearsal" thing just the easiest excuse he could come up with? Update. Hey, I just wanted to check back in and post a quick update since it's been a few days. First of all, Thank you. The insight, support, and honesty from everyone who commented, it really helped keep me grounded. Those first few days were brutal. I felt like my insides were constantly buzzing with fury and disbelief. Some people suggested I reach out for closure. Others said block him and move on. I thought about both options a lot and tried to figure out what would actually help me feel better, not just in the moment, but long term. That first night after posting, I couldn't sleep at all. I just lay there replaying every moment of our relationship in my head, wondering if there were red flags I ignored, moments I missed, things I could have done differently. I went through all the photos on my phone of us together. Yeah, probably not the healthiest thing to do, but I couldn't stop myself. I was just stuck in this loop. I was such a mess those first couple of days. I almost called in sick to my rotation. But I didn't. I pushed through. And honestly, being around patients, especially the kids I'm working with, helped way more than I expected. It reminded me that heartbreak sucks, sure, but some people out there are dealing with way more than a relationship falling apart. That perspective didn't take the pain away, but it gave me a little clarity. There was this one little kid at the hospital, probably 5 years old, going through some pretty tough treatment. And man, the way he handled it? Brave as hell. Watching him deal with everything so calmly made me think, if he can do this, I can survive a breakup. Honestly, my friends have been incredible through all of this. One day, while I was at the hospital, my roommate deep cleaned the entire apartment just so I wouldn't have one more thing weighing me down. Another friend from med school even covered for me during rounds when I needed a mental health break. I've realized I've got a solid support system, and I'm so grateful for that. Yesterday, I decided to reach out to him. I'd been stuck in this fog of shock after everything happened, and I figured I wouldn't be able to fully move on unless I said my piece. I wanted to handle it like an adult, even though part of me wanted to tell him to go screw himself. And yeah, I definitely thought about it. I started by texting him to ask if we could talk. He called me almost immediately, which honestly caught me off guard. I figured he'd be knee-deep in rehearsals or just avoiding the conversation altogether. We ended up talking for about an hour. I let him speak first, just listened as he tried to explain things now that I wasn't in a state of emotional whiplash. He told me more about how everything unfolded. Apparently, the show they've been working on is really emotionally intense, and they've been spending 8 to 10 hours a day together, rehearsing all these intimate scenes. He said the line between acting and reality started to blur, and he caught himself thinking about her even when they weren't rehearsing. I told him I appreciated his honesty, that I knew breakups are hard no matter what. I even thanked him for not dragging things out any longer and for at least being upfront. But I also told him straight up how much it hurt, how discarded I felt after being so vulnerable and open with him. Then I brought up something that had been eating at me. I told him that I was the one carrying most of the weight in the relationship. I was the one who always drove downtown to see him. I was the one planning our dates, remembering the little things he liked, making space for him in my already packed schedule. Meanwhile, he never really reciprocated, not unless I asked. And he never once made me feel like a priority. He actually had the nerve to say he didn't realize I'd been doing most of the work. Seriously? You didn't notice that I was the one driving 45 minutes every time to see you? That you only came to my place when I specifically asked? That I made the plans, got the gifts, remembered all your favorites, all while juggling clinicals and exams? Give me a break. But I stayed calm. I didn't want this conversation to end in bitterness, even though my blood was boiling. I told him I hoped he figures out what he really wants, but I made it clear I'm not going to be waiting around in case this thing with his co-star falls through. He thanked me, actually thanked me, for being so kind about all this, even while admitting he knew I didn't deserve any of it. Then he went on to clarify something else. He told me that he and this girl had a drunk makeout almost 6 years ago, when they first started in the program. Wait, what? That was brand new information. He never mentioned that. Not once. That's a pretty important piece to leave out when you're telling your girlfriend that you've caught feelings for someone else. I called him out on it, and he immediately got defensive, said it was a one-time thing, that it meant nothing, and that they both agreed to be just friends afterward. Yeah, right? Now I'm wondering if he's been into her this entire time. Maybe she was unavailable or uninterested, so he settled for me. And the second she started to show the tiniest bit of interest back, boom, I was disposable. And now I can't stop thinking, was our whole relationship just a placeholder? Was I just the stand-in until something better came along? Because honestly, that's what it feels like. I didn't say any of that to him, but that's exactly how I've been feeling. A few of you mentioned it sounded like a typical showman's, and yeah, after hearing everything and doing a little research, I totally agree. Not my problem anymore, though. I actually looked up showman's online, And apparently they're ridiculously common in theater and performance programs. Makes sense, I guess. You're spending all day rehearsing emotional, romantic scenes, and next thing you know, your brain's confused about what's real and what's not. It's intense. I just wish he'd figure that out before blowing up our relationship. I talked to a friend of mine who's done some theater, and she confirmed it. Showmances happen all the time. And according to her, most of them don't last. The show ends, the adrenaline fades, and everyone just goes back to reality. For those of you wondering if I'd ever take him back if he suddenly realized he made a mistake and came crawling back, absolutely not. I'm done being anyone's backup plan. I already gave him a second chance once. I believed he'd grown. I believed we had something worth fighting for. And I'm not putting myself through that again. I know what I bring to the table, and I deserve someone who doesn't need a dramatic stage production to figure out if they want me in their life. And no, I don't think she's some homewrecker or anything like that. From everything I've seen and heard, I honestly don't think she even knows how he feels about her. If she does, she's been keeping it pretty low-key. This feels more like his emotional confusion than anything else. Also, yeah, a lot of you pointed out I was doing most of the work in the relationship, and now that I'm out of it, it's crystal clear. Funny how you can miss the imbalance when you're in it, just trying to keep things afloat. But stepping back? It's obvious. And don't worry, he's blocked. On everything. I'm still feeling low. I won't lie. Trying to process all this while prepping for step 1, the most important exam I've had in med school so far, has been brutal. But at least I've got something to focus on, and honestly, being busy has helped keep me from falling apart. That, and my friends. They've been amazing. Truly. I don't know what I'd do without them. I finally packed up all of his stuff from my apartment. It wasn't much, just a few pieces of clothing, some books, his favorite mug he used when he stayed over, and a couple of toiletries. It's all sitting in a box now. I haven't decided if I'm going to ship it, trash it, or just drop it off anonymously. Not really a priority anymore. I also went through my phone and deleted all our pictures. Untagged myself from anything on social media. The only photo I kept was one of me sitting at his piano, smiling. Not because of him. I kept it because I look happy in that photo. Like really happy. And I want to remember that version of myself. The guy who can still be that happy with or without him. Some people asked about the gifts. Yeah, he still has them. And no, I don't want them back. I gave them with good intentions, and trying to reclaim them would just feel petty. That said, I wouldn't exactly cry if you choked on the bourbon. Wouldn't be the worst karma. Oh, and I found the receipt for those music sheets I got him. Let's just say, I spent way more than I should have. Especially on a med student budget. But hey, lesson learned. No more luxury gifts for guys who can't even figure out what they want. Anyway, thank you again for all the support. Reading your comments really helped me get through the fog of this breakup. If anything major happens, maybe I'll post an update. But honestly, I think this chapter's closed for good. And honestly, that's probably exactly how it should be.